Tired of the hype about living the dream? It's time for truth. This is the place for tools, power, and real talk so you can create the life you dream and deserve. Your ultimate life. Subscribe, share, create. You have infinite power. Hello and welcome to this episode of Your Ultimate Life, the podcast that I created 6 years ago now to help you have a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy by serving with your life experience, your gifts, and the whole of your heart. I got a special guest today that is coming to me from all the way across Canada. I'm in Edmonton. She's in New Brunswick. And Houlie Duquet. Houlie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. What a pleasure it is to be here.
Yeah, you're just absolutely welcome. And we got a chance to visit for a minute before we started. And I'm going to not introduce you because I don't, but everything that you do will come out as we chat during the show. So I'll ask you a question. And I want you not to be modest. This is not a time for modesty. So tell me what Houlie does to add good to the world.
Well, I'm right now leading an organization called Homeschool to Go. And so we support hundreds of parents in providing their children higher quality of education that fits their needs and that develops their areas of genius. And so beyond supporting the students, we support the parents as well in creating a rhythm so that it's a joyful experience for them to keep family at the center of their education.
So you said a whole bunch of things in there that I want to take apart. You said family at the center of education. You said creating a joyful experience instead of a drag. Like we had a 2022, right after the Russia attacked Ukraine, my wife's maiden name is Bondarenko, and so she's Ukrainian. Her dad was born in Odessa. So we ended up having a mother and daughter who were refugees come in June that year, and they stayed with us for 3.5 years. And they just moved out about 5 or 6 months ago on their own.
Wow.
And yeah, and so you have chosen to have family at the center. You've chosen to have the school enjoyable. And the reason I mentioned our refugees is because the little 11-year-old, she was 7 when she came, 8, 9, 10. So she went to the local school and she was bored. It wasn't interesting enough. And she's as smart as a whip and she's a fabulous artist, et cetera, et cetera. And so she certainly could have used the kind of attention. The first question I had about it is, how hard is it to make something custom for people? Like every kid's different. So talk a little bit about that.
I mean, I think it would be something that probably resonates with some of the conversations that you have. But as far as the difficulty of creating it, I don't really find it difficult because I love doing it. This is like, I get joy out of seeing students show through their work, their passion, or through their schooling, their passion. And so I do agree that the one size fits all education system is not really there to serve the students. I think it's more there to serve the system to be able to manage all these children at the same time. Like we can get into why it is that way later on, but as far as creating the programs and how we do it, the first thing we do before we design the curriculums for the students is we talk to the family. We find out how many hours in the week they have to invest in the education of their children, like to sit down with them and work on the projects. So we figure that out. We require a minimum of 2 hours for children that are in elementary, 2 hours a week, and a minimum of 5 hours for middle school and high school. So once we understand how much time they want to be spending on the actual schooling, that means the work that happens outside of daily life, because there's a lot of learning that happens in life just from living it. We find out what are the predominant intelligences in the students. So we do a psychological assessment for this that tells us where their different types of intelligence are more developed than others. So how they would do it in the school is they have one curriculum and all the children have to satisfy or check a list of milestones for each specific subject. how we do it. So if a student is behind in math, they then have to do more math. And if they're ahead in English, they don't do any more English because they're already at the standard. For me, that's a way to waste the potential of a student. So we do it the other way around. We identify the genius area so that we can help them develop those gifts even further. That will help them develop a sense of purpose and help them develop, like, they will become outstanding at a specific discipline, and they would be able to turn that into value to offer to the world. So when the students are behind in a specific subject or a specific milestone, instead of making them do more of that, we find ways to be able to teach them those fundamental concepts, like, basic arithmetic you have to learn in order to navigate the world. So if a student is not particularly talented in that milestone, we help the parents adjust the learning through different mediums so that they can get to the point where they need to be. But we focus entirely on what they are really good at ahead of everybody else, where their talents are. And then we help them excel in those specific talents. So the grades are something that we use to help guide the parents and the students. Like sometimes students want to go to college or university, so they will have transcripts and they will have completed grades. But for us, it doesn't really mean much because we have students that are in third grade doing stuff that is fifth grade, and we have students in eighth grade doing 12th grade stuff. And most of our students, by the time they get to sophomore year, they've already completed all of the milestones of high school, so they can spend 2 years before they go to college or whatever it is that they do, learning about entrepreneurship, about financial literacy, about mathematics applied to stocks, things that are useful for real life, and that they're passionate about. And so, yeah, that's what we do essentially. That's how we customize this.
I love that. And you know what is most exciting for me? Your description of the process of focusing on strengths while mitigating areas of weakness, but doing it with real life learning so that it's not onerous, and developing high levels of skill in areas of genius. I love the description and everything you do, but the thing that was most exciting for me was to look at the energy of your face and your excitement as you described this whole thing. It's clear to me that this is like really near to your heart. So how did that happen? What happened to Houlie that made this so important to you?
I think the moment where I had the epiphany that I wanted to do this was when I was a teacher for 10 years. And I was a teacher at different institutions like Cambridge, like Waldorf, like Montessori. These are very respected models around the world. And, parents pay around $25,000 plus to send their kids here. So they're supposed to be giving their children an advantage by sending them into these institutions. And I was a teacher there. I was very passionate about education. I really love my job, but I had a really hard time. Well, I enjoyed it for the first little bit, but it became very frustrating towards the end, once I got into it for long enough to realize that I wasn't going to be able through that system to really take each student to their highest potential. Because I think, once again, the standardized one size fits all doesn't really serve the student in particular. I think in these institutions, they use methodologies that were more evolved than what you would find in a public education system. Like they use project-based education, which is really cool because instead of splitting things by subject, they're more life applicable. Like you have a problem, a driving question, and you use that to learn multiple different subjects and get to an outcome, which attaches the learning to a purpose. But I found I felt constantly frustrated because I didn't have the time or the energy to offer each student in my classroom what I knew they needed to get to that full potential. And I also noticed that the common denominator for the students that were always outstanding was not whether they were smarter or whether they had like more money, like their families had more money. It was always whether their parents cared about their education and were involved in their life. So the outstanding students always had really supporting families behind them. And for me, it became clear in that moment that when I became a parent, I would be homeschooling my child because I could offer them this education that way. So yeah, I ended up becoming a mother 5.5 years ago. And that's when I decided that I started looking for programs that would check off, like that would fulfill my standards, like what I wanted as what I consider high quality education. And I didn't find anything that fulfilled all that. One of the things being English and Spanish, like I was born and raised in Colombia, living in Canada. I wanted to raise a child that was bilingual because being bilingual opened so many doors for me. And I didn't want my son to not have that skill. And it's so crazy. There isn't a single program out there other than ours that is fully bilingual, that they will teach you all the subjects in both languages. And so that was the first one. And then there was not a lot of programs that were project based, which for me was a requirement. And then that is on top of teaching like the main academic subjects, they would be teaching like emotional development, growth mindset, entrepreneurship, like all these skills that I consider so important. So I started creating it myself. And as I did, I started to find so many people that needed that same thing and that were trying to put pieces together at home, but were so stressed because not everybody can do that if you don't have a teacher background. So this is how my organization started to grow, because just from having conversations and seeing how there was a need for what I was creating, it lit the fire in me to put all my efforts into making sure that we can get this in front of the eyes of as many people as possible that could find value in it.
Yeah, fabulous. And again, so you are developing something because you couldn't find it. So you had a kid and you said, I need these things to have education. And obviously, since I've been in not the public school, but the special version of public school, like you mentioned, those other things, other kinds of schooling, but still not enough to get the most out of each student, which was important. And then you went on and said, fine, I'll build my own. And that's great. Where did you get the education? Like if you're creating something that doesn't exist right now, what taught you about entrepreneurship and project-based things and emotional intelligence? And how did you get that yourself, since it didn't exist until you built it?
Yeah, well, I think the project-based education was something that I learned during my training as a teacher for Cambridge schools. So that was like that specific methodology in Montessori, in Waldorf, like the emotional development aspects. For example, Waldorf education, they apply this concept of the student personality. So there's the yellow personality, which is the sanguine. There's the red personality, the blue, and the green. And so it's so effective when you know what type of personality a child is very easy to identify once you know the description for each one of them and the strategies that you can use to approach the students in a way that it really speaks to them. So I took aspects from different models of education that I had experience with, and I put them together. As far as the entrepreneurship, has been a combination of what I have learned from running a business. I would say the biggest part of the learning comes from the experience itself. But I also took a lot of training. Like I did business accelerators as I was developing my business, and I partnered with other people, with other teachers that had that specialize in those specific areas. So right now on our team, we have somewhere around like between 6 and 8 teachers that 2 of them are part-time, but the rest of them work with us full-time. And what they do is they check in with the students to make sure, or with the parents to make sure that they don't have any questions, there's any resource that we want to adapt in a different way. And so all these teachers on our team, they have different expertise. So I match them up with the families that have specific passions for topics. Like I'm not very versed in the world of stocks, for example, but I have students that are learning that. So I pair them up with the teachers. Like one of my teachers, he has a master's in technology entrepreneurship or something like this. It's like a business master's in technology management is what it is. And so he understands statistics and understands technology and coding and all these topics really well. So I match him up with the profiles that fulfill that profile. Anyway, so yeah, so that's how I did it. You know, like a lot of it was on the go, but also from having conversations, like I care a lot about what I do. And so for me, it was very important that I wasn't just another homeschool program that a family purchased. I wanted to be the reason why they kept doing it until the end, and the reason why they believed in their child to become who, you know, whatever they become. So I developed a very close relationships with every single one of the families in my program. And I asked them, and they started telling me what are the aspects that make my service so valuable. And then I amplified those specific points that they were talking about. And the personalization was crucial. Like a lot of them, like being able to switch plans because they noticed that this wasn't working, and you know, all those things. So I think that a lot of the learning happened in the process of developing this project.
You know, what's fun about your description, again, is the energy. But, you know, you talked in the beginning about customizing so that you maximize each student.
Yes.
And you've applied that exact principle to building your business. So you're finding the teachers that let you maximize this. You ask the parents, which things work? Which things are really valuable? Which ones are like, yeah, not so much? And then you've amplified those and done that. So you're doing what occurs to me as I listen to you talk about this is you're doing the very thing to your business that you do to the student to maximize their education. And so it's not a surprise to me that the parents find it so valuable because you're doing that.
Well, you know what they say about entrepreneurship, that is like the biggest personal development master than anybody can find. I was reading something about how like people talk about ayahuasca being life changing, and if you think that all these experiences are life changing, you should try entrepreneurship, because I think when you're raising a business, it really shows you all the places in which, you know, your business will be deficient in all the places where you are. So if you're not willing to work on yourself and develop yourself, your business will stay in the same place as well.
You know, you're exactly right. And as a coach and business coach with clients, and I've been doing this, I mean, I had a career as an executive, whatever, but for the last 20 years, 18, 19 years, I've been a coach. And I notice exactly the same thing. People with business problems will come and they say, I need more clients. I need more this and that. And the fundamental issues that we always end up solving are the ones in here. Like, who are you being? Yeah. Who's showing up to work and with the people? Who's running the business? And when we fix that, the rest of the stuff is like easy.
Yeah. Well, when I first built this program, it was a project based, like with flexible activities that they can be easily adapted to what parents wanted. And I remember, you know, at this point I would have had like somewhere between 30 and 40 students. And I remember talking to one of the parents and them telling me like, oh, like my child she's just not engaged with the activities that you sent. And I feel like in that moment, like, you know, when you have your business so close to your heart and who you are, it can hurt the ego.
Yeah, sure.
But from all the training that I had done, I knew that what I needed to do in that moment was ask more questions to understand what was the aspect that wasn't fulfilling the need. And as a result of doing that, I was able to evolve my product, because I was no longer just giving a set curriculum that could be adapted. I was giving the curriculum adapted based on insights that I wasn't gathering at that point, like the multiple intelligences and like the rhythm of the parent. And yeah, so many different things, little elements that we have added since then, that comes from hearing one of my clients tell me something that I'm not doing right. And rather than letting that hurt my ego and like rejecting them, letting that expand me, So I am grateful for all those opportunities. And I do think that raising a business goes hand in hand with growing as a person. Like you have to really, be willing to listen.
I hope, I hope that you write the book of Houlie someday. I'm serious, the book, because what I see is the most important thing that any of us, you, me, or anybody else, has to offer the world is really the story of our own becoming.
Mhm.
Right? How did we get who we are, and who I see right now is a dedicated, committed person, and not letting ego get in the way. That is so much the problem. Because as soon as someone feels attacked or offended or anything, they quit listening. And if you had felt like that, you would have quit listening to the people that were talking to you. Or if we are talking to someone else and we make them feel marginalized or less than or whatever it is, they quit listening. And then at that moment, everything stops.
Yeah, I
Right?
think there's been so many times in my business where I have felt that, that fear of failure or that I'm not doing things well enough. And I think it's in those moments where you have to question yourself. And it's those moments that have propelled me to the next like level of who I could be. So when I do approach and in general in my life, not just with my business, I kind of hit a wall where I'm having difficulties or I feel challenged. I always say to myself to help me through that process, it's like this is the opportunity for change that you've been wanting. You have to value and cherish those moments as well, I think.
I love it. And the way I frame that question is, who do I have to be to take advantage of this situation? So the situation might seem like a barrier or a letdown or a failure or a setback. And instead of viewing it that way, I ask myself or clients, who do I have to be to take advantage of this instead of be hurt by it or push back?
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more of a quantum jump because you're like, instead of thinking from your perspective, you're like thinking from the perspective of who's already solved that problem, which is somebody who can take advantage of it.
Yeah. Who do I have to be? In terms of either thinking or understanding or growth or something. And when you go there, it puts the whole ego thing out of the question because you can't be curious and offended at the same time.
Yes, I agree.
I can't really be curious and interested in finding something out and be mad. I can't do those in the same moment.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So I love this, and I really am serious. I hope you obviously you're offering a product, a personalized curriculum and homeschool to go. I love the name. I love not only the name, but the way you have created it. Have you written, besides curriculum, which you're obviously a genius at, and you're very dedicated, are you writing things? Are you writing books or manuals about this?
My writing is limited to my journaling and the manuals that I write for my teachers and for the positions within my company of how I do things. I write it all down because, as we grow, I'll be delegating more of it, but that's about it. Just writing within my own, but I haven't really gotten into, writing as an author, like a book yet. However, I do hold a creative writing competition within my students because we have a lot of really good writers. So yeah, I do encourage creative writers within
I couldn't feel more strongly. You have outlined the connection really well between entrepreneurship and personal development, as you've described that. You can't grow your business beyond your own level of personal development. You just can't. And you've articulated that, and you've demonstrated it in your process. You would, I think, both you personally, because it's fun to do, and your students and your curriculum would be really benefited by writing the book. I always call it the book of whoever I'm talking to, so the book of Houlie, but it is expressing those truths that you really can't develop something, a business or a friendship or love or anything else, beyond the level of your own personal development. You can't do that. And that's what I'm hearing you tell me.
That's amazing. I think you've given me an idea because I feel like it would be really cool to have a project in our program where the kids write a book about something that they're good at or something that some truth they want to express to the world. So far we do like is the journey through my eyes, which is like we get the students to write a story of an experience they have had, and they can choose to make it fiction, like add fictional aspects to it or not. And so I really like that idea. And maybe, who knows, maybe I'll end up being, doing the project myself as well. And I'll send you an email if I do
yeah,
that.
yeah, you've discovered something really, you're articulating something really important. And you've articulated it, explained it really well. And that is that you can't build your business beyond where you personally are developed. I mean, that's a fundamental principle. I agree with it. And that's why I see that in business clients all the time. I can't help them until they're able and willing to develop themselves beyond the level of limitation that their being is creating in the business. So you've said that in different words, but whatever.
I'll take journaling more seriously now since you said that. And then maybe I'll use those notes to write a book after I get to the place where I want to be.
Yeah, cool. I think that's wonderful. So you said earlier you are born and raised in Colombia, but you live in Canada, and everybody in the audience knows I'm in Canada also. Do you do any of this? And you emphasized raising your kid bilingual, which I think is fabulous. Do you do any of this offering in your home country of Colombia, or just?
Absolutely. We have families all around the world. So we have families in Colombia, in Venezuela, in Argentina, in Uruguay. We just had a sign up in Peru, Panama. Then we have a lot of people in the US. Most of our families are located in Florida because something beautiful is happening in Florida right now where the government is giving funds to the families to invest in education at home and homeschooling. So it's amazing. I think there's, I was telling you earlier in our conversation, there's almost 2 million people in Florida that have access to that funding now. And they are testing the children at the end of the year so they can keep stats, whether this was a good initiative from the government or not. And the results so far have been so good. They keep adding budget to that specific funding. So that's wonderful. We have a lot of people in Florida, like I said, in Arizona. There's also funding there for families in Arizona, and in Canada, I do have a few families as well. So
do you find you said the government giving funding, which is basically allowing parents to spend more effort and energy than they otherwise would because they're getting some money, which means they don't have to earn it somewhere else to live. And do you find, where are the favorite places? I know you said Florida and Arizona, and you related it to the funding. Are there other favorite places where is it money or is it something else that causes people to care more about their kids and being willing to invest the time? What I see, well, I want you to answer that, but I want to say one more thing. One of the things I see is what I saw with Veronica, our little Ukrainian gal, and my youngest kids, which is still some years ago because mine are all grown up long, but that so many parents, they just dump their kids in the school and they expect the school to do everything. And, they don't really want to take any responsibility. But one of the keys you said is the parental involvement. So tell me the relationship. Do you see any places that are more about that?
I wouldn't say any places. Like homeschooling is taking a lot of strength in a lot of different places. In the United States is the strongest out of the entire world. But I do see like groups of people, like for example, entrepreneurs are more open to homeschooling because when you are an entrepreneur, you are doing things against the system, right? Because when you go to school, you're kind of a traditional school, you're being trained to follow instructions. And then you graduate from that, you go to college, and then you get hired by someone. And as long as you follow instructions, you have this paycheck. And then eventually you can retire later on in your life. when you're much older. And, I feel like your freedom would be more valuable when you're raising children or when you're younger than then. But in any case, we see a lot of entrepreneurs that they have to teach themselves so many skills. It makes them realize how much they didn't learn valuable things in school. And so they're a little bit more rebellious with the way that they see the world, or at least what society tells us to do. And so they tend to be the ones that want to homeschool the most. Also, expats, I find, is another big group, because it's people who have an open mind. They have a mind open enough to have decided to leave their country of origin and go somewhere else, and they can see how much power they have in rewriting their own story. So yeah, expats, entrepreneurs. I think right now a lot of people are also starting to consider homeschool, because the schools, it's just becoming too evident with all the low performing schools, and all the chaos that is happening inside the schools, that parents are realizing, I can do so much better at home, right? And to take the step is overwhelming. But from all the families that I have worked with, and from many homeschool families that I've talked to, I haven't met the first homeschooler that regrets homeschooling. So I think that it's just the way that the world is going now. I think that personalized education, it is the future of education. I really do believe that, because the world is changing with AI. So many jobs are disappearing. So many new jobs are taking. And so if AI is going to be like the right hand, or is going to be able to take over so many repetitive following instructions type jobs, why are we still training like all these generations to do what some technology can do, right? It makes no sense. So I think that things are changing.
I love that. Entrepreneurs, those that go against the grain, the square pegs and the round holes. People that are also noticing that schools, you are very diplomatic. Schools are a flipping disaster in the United States, and Canada's not that much better, or if any, and they're a disaster. They're not teaching kids to think. They're not teaching them critical thinking. They're not teaching them to reason. And yeah, I'm on a soapbox, but okay. And you are the answer, because you said, oh, the idea of homeschooling your kid is so overwhelming. Well, not if they come and get, homeschooling to go. Because you not only help them learn how to do it, but you customize it, because you talk to the kids and you make it matter to them. So you're like the answer, the entrepreneur's dream for their kids.
I think it's again, from all those conversations that I had, from all the listening, I realized what were the specific problems that a parent in that position has. And it's like the ongoing support. So that's why I have teachers that check in with the parents every week to make sure everything's going well, if they need to change anything, and keep them accountable, all these things. Then we have the resources, of course, that, like I mentioned, are personalized to the child's genius areas. And then we also have community within that. I think when you are the type of person who thinks differently, wants more for your own life, and you raise your child that way, I consider myself one of those parents. Like, I really truly care, and I take my job as a mom very seriously. You find that there are so many people that are still dormant out there, and so the majority of kids that are being raised in that way, like eating all the dyes and watching all the screens, and not really getting as much time with their parents. You get a little bit protective, because influence is very important. Like, who you surround yourself with is going to have a big impact on who you become. So I know a lot of parents like me that feel that way, and wish that they could expose their children to children that were more ambitious, or more grounded, or like just higher standards for their life. And so what we do as well is we have one call a month for every student. We group the students with their teachers, and one call a month in English and one call a month in Spanish. So it's bi-weekly, and the students get together and they show each other the projects in the lower grades, like kinder to second grade. The teachers do games like language games and math games and critical thinking games. And all these kids that all have parents that really care about their education and that have all these wonderful insights and values, they're all influencing each other. And it's really cool. Like, this is one of my favorite parts, like to see them all interact and talk about and recommend each other books and like show each other, like one is working on coding this space simulation and the other one is working on their business for bakery, and the other one, like, it's just so cool to see them all come together. And I didn't intend that on purpose. Like, I was doing these calls because I thought community would be so important. And then as they got together, I realized like how wonderful it is that the entire community of students that we have, they're like, I consider them all geniuses in their own ways. And they're all like that special kid that you meet and you're like, wow, that kid's amazing. That's all of our community. And so it's really cool also to have that community aspects. And I found a lot of parents also told me, we come back every year because we don't want to let go of the amazing community that you built. So yeah, I listened to those observations from the families and I put together what I interpreted was their dream to have. And it is when you are in the stage of making the plot, like making the choice, taking the leap into homeschooling, is overwhelming. And you don't want to be overwhelmed because you want to be a role model for your child. And so for me, it's a pleasure to be able to take that weight off the shoulder of the parents so that they can sit down with their kids and enjoy that, like this project tells us exactly what we need to do. So now I get to just sit down with my child and enjoy that time, that interaction. We are both students together in the journey of their learning, right? Like, the parent doesn't need to know it all. They just need to go through the process. Like, every project is separated between the research phase, the execution phase, the presentation phase, and the reflection. So parents can easily go through that even if they don't have all the answers, because there's the research phase, right? And so, yeah, I think that's what, if we want more children to grow to their highest potential, we need to have more parents that have the freedom to do that. And so my job is to make it as easy for the parents so that the parents can enjoy their time with their children.
Nobody's going to watch this episode and not be infected by your energy and the commitment you have to this. So I want you to, this is going to be an open-ended question. I've asked you some different things and you've given us spectacular descriptions and energy, and anybody that has kids that doesn't want to homeschool them after this, they're asleep or they're not listening. What didn't I ask you that's part of your program? How to get a hold of you? Like, what didn't we talk about that we need to talk about? You said you have a giveaway. I need a website. I need anything else that needs to go with this spectacular energy and love that you've poured into these kids and parents.
Thank you so much for those kind words. It really means the world to me that you can see like how deeply you feel about this.
It's easy.
If you like, I was telling you earlier, but we weren't on air. So from having conversations with thousands of parents that are in that position, like, you're wondering what it would take to become a homeschooler, if you can do it, if you qualify, like, am I trained enough to be able to do it? Do I have what it takes? If you're in that position and you have all those questions that are making you feel overwhelmed, because I've talked to so many of you, I put together a masterclass. It's a 30-minute video where I go through all of the questions. I answer them with real stats, with real peer-reviewed information. And then I also give you the next steps, like everything from how to find out what's the legal authority that you fall under and what you need to do to comply. How do you schedule your day so that homeschooling doesn't feel like it's taking away from your life. It's the opposite, is giving you joy. All these things are in this masterclass. I sent Joy the link so she can put it in the notes for the episode. But if you go to www.homeschool.org, my website will come up. In the first screen right there, there's going to be a big button that says the Homeschool to Go free masterclass. You click that, you can sign up for that. And that video should answer most of your questions. If you have any more specific questions beyond that, after you watch the video, there's an opportunity to book a one-on-one with me where I can just listen to you in a call like this, and I can answer those questions as well and help you get started. But I do think that if you have that calling, the role of a parent has the potential to make way more impact than a career, in my opinion. Like you are replaceable in every role in your life except for the one of being a mom or being a father to your child. And so I do think it's worth dedicating enough energy to that one. And if you have that calling, it'd be my pleasure to support you in making that happen. So, yeah.
Again, homeschooltogo.org. If you have kids and you even thought about homeschooling, go there right now and just get that. It's free, and you get to hear her with this energy and this passion and this amount of research teach you, hold you, encourage you, and bring you the kind of confidence you need to take the next step. And offering a free consultation after that is just amazing. Houlie, I can't thank you enough. I am moved, and I have 10 children, but they're all grown up and moved into the universe now, and so I can't do anything with that. But some of my kids are homeschooling already, and I am going to let them know about this program, Homeschool to Go, for grandkids. Like, I'm way too old to have kids to worry about, but I love it. I love you for what you're doing. You're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. I feel the connection deeply as well. It'd be a pleasure to work with your family, honestly, with what you're doing in the world.
All right, listeners, listen. You need to. I get good guests on here. Okay, we got a lot of good guests. This is a special opportunity, and here's why. It isn't just because she's taught the principle of your level of success in life in anything has to do with your level of personal development, including business. But she's talking about things that have generational impact. And she has clearly said your kids are the most important thing. I don't care how much money you make or what position you have. And all of those things are precious and eternal truths because they last. And so listen here, homeschooltogo.com. Go do this. Again, Houlie, I want to thank you for everything that you're doing in the world.
I just wanted to correct that because it's not .com, it's .org.
Org. I said that right the first time and wrong the second time. Homeschooltogo.org. Homeschooltogo.org. Absolutely. Scratch the com. Okay. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure, a blessing.
I can promise you, listeners, this is a valuable one. Take advantage and move forward like you know you can to create your ultimate life.
Never hold back and you'll never ask why. Open your heart and this time around.
Right here, right now. Your opportunity for massive growth is right in front of you. Every episode gives you practical tips and practices that will change everything. If you want to know more, go to KellanFluckigerMedia.com. If you want more free tools, go here, YourUltimateLife.ca. Subscribe. Share.
Stand with your heart in the sky and your